Hey, this is Chase at MADenomics with Sean White, and today we're going to have a bit of a general discussion just on the responsibility and functionality of money. We kind of touched on that last episode with discussing the fiat currency, and we just wanted to expand on those ideas a little bit today. So, Sean, if you want to lead us into this.
We're going to be looking at the functionality. The difference between what we discussed yesterday was the definition of fiat currency. If we dislike the format of currency, we need to know what service is money providing us for. We can have tons of different monetary systems, we can have tons of different styles, but if we have no idea what we want, then we can't pick a good system. We'll talk about liquidity, the opportunity, its exchange, what it means to people, what makes a monetary system better for us. We need a system that fits our needs. This is going to be a discussion to bring up some of the points that people might not be thinking that money needs to support. After that, it's going to be what I believe it needs, Chase believes it needs. This one isn't an exact definition. This is very important speculations. What we talked about briefly on the previous episode was liquidity, and Chase discussed that, so we'll start it off with that. I want to point out, and I'm going to keep this in the final recording, we have done this line so many times. Chase, take 40.
I don't even know what I want to say anymore. With liquidity, we basically just talked about our fiat currency and the physical money that we actually use. It's our most liquid asset, so it's really easy to trade with, it's really convenient, it's the easiest form to pay you in. Instead of going out and working a 9-to-5 job and then receiving 10 pounds of grain, you're receiving the equivalency of that. It makes it so much easier for us to collect that money, transfer it into a bank, or go out and spend it as we please. Having that convenience allows us more time, because when you got paid in grain, you'd have to take that grain, try and trade it for something else that you needed. Now you can take your $5 straight to the bank and deposit it directly, or you can go to McDonald's without having all that middle work in between. That functionality of money, specifically related to our current fiat currency, is definitely a bonus.
The actual physical format is a very important aspect of it. Most people seem very happy with the electronic systems, the cash, and the coin.
Just with that note on the technological advancements, we always have access to our money. You can always buy something no matter where you are online. You can order all over the world and always be able to make payments on it. Make that transaction of taking your liquid asset and trading to something very physical, very real.
And one thing that I'm curious to is my parents' generation. There is a paranoia between the security of electronic currency. Anyone who would comment if they are more comfortable with the physical asset or the protection in the bank revolved around that.
Well, personally, I think the argument for having the physical currency is reliability of having it in hand.
The other primary point of currency is reliability. If you are paid for work, if you are selling an object and you receive a form of currency, you need to know that the following day that it will still retain tradability. That is key. And the ease that people want when you look at Europe, who converted its currencies, except for England and some of the Eastern European countries, into the euro. This is to increase the speed of trade. This is to normalize the value and to make it simpler for the consumer. So the reliability is very important.
Just with that being said, looking at some markets, as far as digital currency goes, Bitcoin has really been popular lately. And that's kind of lacking the certain reliability that you were talking about, yet people are still buying into it because of its ease of transaction based around anonymity. And so, even though the reliability feature is nice, I don't think it's necessary in this day and age, because look at the risks that people are willing to go out and take on investing in that currency.
Well, when we're talking about Bitcoin, there's a lot of specific information that I can go about if it's requested, but I don't believe that Bitcoin achieves being a currency. Bitcoin is a commodity that can be traded the same way that a stock, a property, a piece of art can be traded, but it fails to meet the current definition of a monetary standard or a system of currency. If you look at how it functions, someone's paid in their national currency, then we transfer the Canadian dollar to a Bitcoin amount the same way we would buy a stock property deed, then we sell that stock, that Bitcoin, back into another form of currency.
I see you've played your fair share of Monopoly.
I made a Monopoly joke?
Well, some people who take your deed.
It's called a property deed. I'm sorry that I'm using the correct
But
definition
are you
of the
gonna
term.
who's gonna accept that as payment?
What do you have? A
Who's
dictionary?
gonna accept that as payment though?
We're discussing economics and I'm using the correct economic term. Oh my god. Okay, Bitcoin isn't really a form of currency. People like volatile stocks. I don't believe people, when you talk about a mass population, would be very happy if they were paid in something as volatile as the Bitcoin standard, in the sense that, let's say, $100 for your work today and tomorrow it was effectively only worth 30. Why I would say the reliability is the other major important. To continue on the discussion of what money is in terms of the time or the convenience that you can trade through other services, Chase will describe a bit more about that.
So with that, we get down to the point of I'm a bricklayer and Sean is a baker. And so if I want Sean to bake me 30 loaves of bread, rather than having to go and build him a house in exchange for these 30 loaves of bread, I can be paid for my work as a brick worker and exchange it for his loaves of bread. The value of my bricklaying doesn't go unpaid, and I can still continue to do my main primary function and still be able to survive.
It gives a security. It says that if you want bread, you don't need to know a bread maker. You will be compensated through our monetary system and then allow yourself to purchase the services that you need then. If you need to build a fence, if you need to bake bread, while at the same time still have the option to teach yourself the steps to create your own fence. It's allowing you the option, and that's the security it gives you.
They have this option that other people don't have because they don't have that money in the first place to give them that amount of time to be able to do these sorts of things.
And I believe that ties us very nicely into one of the complications. If you discuss person to person, a monetary system, is it fair? Going back to our bricklayer, they work for 8 hours, and then you have a baker that works for 8 hours. Though they put in the same amount of time, and for the purpose of example, let's also say they put in the same amount of effort, the compensation that they both receive. This is where you get into political ideologies. If you want to go to take some communist ideologies, you are saying that the baker, the doctor, the bricklayer, all should be paid based on the amount of work they are doing, not necessarily the specialization of the trade. I do want to point out that's not all forms of communism. Other people believe that people should get paid whatever they can. That's the widest spectrum they have. We can set values, we can set equal values.
It's more so based on supply and demand though, right? Because if you need bread in your community, or if you need houses being built, or you need doctors, then their wages are going to go up based on their demand, right? Because you can only supply so many, so with a limited resource, the skills that they possess, they would be able to charge accordingly to the demand for their services.
It's a very common theory. It's just a supply and demand theory. Everyone knows those terms put together. The point that I bring up isn't what sets certain values, it's how do we make a monetary system that is fair. Now, that's not something we're going to really be able to discuss in detail today, but our banking systems are used in very specific situations. And that's often where people have issues, our central banking systems and our general law. But we need a monetary system that is fair, ideally. So what else would you like to mention about the responsibility and functionality of the monetary system?
You touched on an important topic, but as far as if it's fair, you're going to encourage more workers to participate in everyday labor, everyday work. The more people we have in our workforce, the more money we're bringing back into our system. This kind of ties into the idea of our GDP, and GDP is our gross domestic product. It's just how much all of our assets is worth on a national scale.
And it's just a very important piece of information.
It's really in depth because we have to look at things like inflation, we have to look at unemployment, total labor workforce, potential GDP, stuff we're going to kind of touch on later episodes.
Though it is very important for a monetary system to encourage work, and I know My communist friend is going to stab me for this comment. The reason you want to have a monetary system that encourages work, most people dislike their work. They have a dream to get a certain amount of money to stop working, which I can say that as much as I understand how that's a negative, I want it. I know it's bad, and I want it. It's like wanting chocolate.
Work till you die.
If you didn't have to care about what you did...
We don't really have time to discuss it in this episode, but life is work.
Shut up, you philosopher.
You want to
Don't even try. Going back to encouraging work, there are labor jobs that aren't fun. Important jobs are garbage collection, creating roads, lumber. They're not fun jobs. Some people may find them fun, but they're not what most people would strive to be. There's still jobs that we need for a functional society, and the monetary system needs to encourage those things. If we want larger amount of luxuries and freedoms, we need to realize that the workforce, our desire to work, is the most important aspect to create a stronger monetary policy. Now, some people are going to argue with me on this one, and that's fine. I will argue back. But when you look at current economic models and trends, this is how it works. For different models, for the creation of a system that isn't dependent on that, that's an entirely different subject.
So that kind of leads us into opportunity and the opportunities that we can receive from the functionality of how our money works and the responsibilities behind it. So one of our primary opportunities that we receive from the way that our current money system works is the ability to expand. We get money, we can send our kids to school, we can feed, clothe our children, and try and educate them the best we can and the system allows, and try and expand our family platform. Just having little opportunities created by the value that we have of money goes a lot further than just a monetary value.
I'll just mention about opportunity that's going to tie me into another subject is... One of the key points of the banking system is the creation of risk opportunity, the ability to try to start a business where you don't have personal support in your life. I have issues with banks. I don't think that's a very unique comment. I have massive issues with them. There is a purpose for them, but we need to change the current standards of them. Banks are not as simple as they need to be. We want a money system that is simple to understand. That's something we should strive for whenever we're creating any type of economic model. They are needlessly complicated, and our goal here is to simplify it, and we can get something that everybody wants. But there is good things to banks in theory. In theory, but we'll rip them apart another day. Is there any last comments you want to make, Chase?
No, I believe we've covered our topics today. Two madmen rant about economic beliefs.
You can follow us at cs.mad at M_A_D_onomics or trend a conversation at #MADenomics. If you want a more direct form of contact, send us an email at cs.mutuallyassureddiscussion@gmail.com. If you have any criticism about our topics, make a comment in the comment section below. We'll see what we can do with this project. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Give us feedback so we can give you a better product. Sign us out.
Stay classy, San Diego.